What is gravity?
You have no idea. Okay, next question.
Black man.
This is called gravity. We can describe gravity. We can say what it does to other things. This is called gravity.
Neil, I gotta say, you're totally blowing my mind right now.
That's what I do. I'm Neil deGrasse Tyson, bitch.
What is up, everybody? John TheMorgile here, checking in with you live on Thanksgiving, November the 28th, 2024. I hope y'all are doing well, having a blessed day, and no napping from the turkey. It does have some dope in there. I've been told the turkey has dope in it. It makes you tired, right? So try to stay awake, get you some coffee. I had some leftover pork chops. I didn't get very festive this year, but yeah, I might do a duck next week or something. I do have an inkling for a duck. I just didn't have no money in time for Thanksgiving, so it's leftover pork chops. That's okay. That's okay. We can celebrate the the slaughter and the breaking of the treaties of the Native Americans some other day. And of course, I'm being facetious, but it is hard to look at Thanksgiving the same as you used to as a little kid, right? They did an excellent job, in the mainstream, in the educational system of brainwashing us about Thanksgiving, that it was all about eating turkey burgers with your friends. As we know, the truth is a little bit more jacked up, isn't it? But anyway, so yeah, it is hard for me to get festive about Thanksgiving, especially just now that we recognize and realize all the damn lies in history, like how much of even that is true. You know what I mean? Because a big part of me, like, and I guess we'll go off on this tangent while y'all are still piling in, but a big part of me has a hard time understanding why the fledgling United States got in the business of shipping slaves over from Africa, which is super far, by the way, but shipping slaves over from Africa when they allegedly already had slaves in the form of Native Americans that they had conquered, right? So like the ones that they didn't kill and turn into slaves and sex traffic and things like that, they gave them treaties, right, where they just basically forced them onto worse and worse plots of land, and ultimately like the worst land, and just kept breaking the damn treaties and forcing them off their land. It was a mess, but they had plenty of slaves, is what I'm saying. That's my point. And they don't even hide that in the history at some point. So like, if y'all remember, it's the castle in St. Augustine, Florida. I want to say Castilla de San Marco, I think is what it is. The Star Fort, big old ass Star Fort in St. Augustine, Florida. Maybe I've got the name wrong, but it's the oldest military garrison in the United States. And that, according to the mainstream narrative, was built by Native American slave labor. And I remember it was like made out of this really super rare sort of stone called coquina, which is basically like limestone with seashells and different sediment from the beach down there in Florida. But it's packed real tight, and it's super heavy stone that they and it's really hard to work with too, like particularly hard to work with. Not just because it's so heavy and dense, but because it's hard to cut. It's difficult to work with all around. So that's like the last material that you would want. Basically, slaves they're not skilled workers at all, right? I mean, Native Americans, according to the mainstream narrative, they were running around naked in the woods with little feathers in their hats, right? So what did they know about building these giant garrisons like the castle in St. Augustine, for example, right? So the point that I'm making here, though, is it is hard to get on board with Thanksgiving, knowing the sort of atrocities and all the bullshit that we've been fed. And we still call it, a lot of people still call them Indians because, yeah, whatever. Anyways, a bunch of stuff I wanted to talk to you guys about today. I got some videos I'm going to respond to, a little bit of NASA news, just going to check back in on OSIRIS-REx. A couple of comments I was going to run through real fast while y'all are still like piling in. And then just a couple things I'm going to point out about the YSS and this lady that's supposedly stuck on the YSS for Thanksgiving. Forget her name. It's on the tip of my tongue, but who cares? Y'all know who she is. The lady with the hair, famously. There's just a couple things have changed about that, and we'll get into that in a minute. And then finally, the headliner for today is going to be a video response to this freaking mustachioed, good-looking dude. And he's not a fucking asshole. I'm sorry. There's probably kids watching. I'm sorry. I won't cuss no more. I promise. Sorry. And I said he wasn't a, you know. Okay, here we go. And if y'all could just let me know in the chat if you can see and hear me okay. Brian Hawk, what's up, buddy? Favorite holiday? Man, I don't know. I mean, I really like Christmas, you know, just because, I don't know, the music, it's all in major scales and upbeat. I just get super melancholy during the winter. I don't know. So Christmas does sort of help that. But I don't know. Also, certain times during Christmas it can be super depressing. I don't know. That's just me. Like, call me. I'm not a humbug or anything. It's just I don't know. Sometimes it brings back painful memories. You know what I mean? But I like Christmas. I like Halloween, and I know like I get a lot of shit for that. But I like Halloween. Always have. I've always been sort of into the dark, into the macabre. You know. Not really. I mean, I'm not like into dead shit. I've just always been into the dark, right? But anyway, see and hear fine. Thank you, Jane Doe. I do appreciate you, dear. That's very kind of you to say. Thank you. All right. So, NASA news. So the first thing I just wanted to touch base because I was keeping up with OSIRIS-REx, the NASA mission, and it's been surprisingly silent, right? So there, if y'all forget, and I covered it in a few live streams, it's been like just over a year now when, well, it's been several years when NASA spent billions and billions of our tax dollars to allegedly send the satellite up to an asteroid. The asteroid was named Bennu, Bennu, I think it was spelled. And supposedly NASA sent this satellite machine up there to basically fire like a projectile. Oh, and while I'm talking to y'all, sorry, let me just get this playing. It's better than looking at just my ugly mug. Sorry. I'll put this on loop while I'm just shooting the shit with y'all. Shooting the breeze, I meant. It's coming. Wow. Okay. Need that. Give me that. Totally need that. Okay. And I think that's muted for y'all too. It should be. I sure hope that it is. Shit. Sorry, I'm like such a reread here. Okay, so we can get all that. All right, so there we go. Yeah, I'm just gonna put that on a loop if I can. Yeah, that way you don't just have to look up my nose or whatever the whole time. Yeah, so, but okay, so NASA fired this projectile allegedly at this asteroid and then like scooped up samples and like there was this, it was all in the news for weeks and they sent the capsule, made it back down, but they couldn't get it open. And like they had just months and months trying to get it open. But even before they got it open, they could tell you, the news articles could tell you exactly how old the dirt was from the asteroid and like where the asteroid came from and when that asteroid was born, right down to the fucking day of the week or whatever, right? And it was so stupid because like we already know NASA's been caught like giving foreign dignitaries petrified wood and calling it moon rocks. And we already know that they can't go into space. I mean, they're caught red-handed faking the shit, but it's not possible to go into space like they claim to do. And The thing is, we know that they're faking all this stuff. They are necessarily faking all that stuff. And so, what's up with the dirt from Osiris Rex, NASA? So anyway, I got an article queued up here. And this is just like the sort of Google's answers to, hey, what's happened to Osiris Rex? And it says NASA's Osiris Rex sample capsule begins to reveal its secrets. It's finally open. After months of anticipation, NASA's Osiris Rex mission has achieved a significant milestone by successfully accessing the treasure trove of asteroid material that the probe collected during its billion-mile journey. Okay. So, but so far, as far as I know, nothing has come of that. They were supposed to send a bunch of samples of that off to different universities and different, like science labs or whatever. But I don't know. I don't know what's ever come of that. And the thing is, for them to claim to know how old dirt is, or to claim that they're going on billion-mile journeys in space, it's absurd. Okay. And the reason I say that that's absurd, it all really kind of boils down to this. The concept of infinite space that they claim to be traveling around in, the vacuum of space, that is contingent upon globe Earth, right? So in order for infinite space to exist, the Earth sort of has to be a spinning globe, right? Now, the problem is, and y'all already know, there's no curvature to the world, especially measurably over standing water. And it's at rest. It's not in motion. So it is like the very contrary to any sort of spinning sphere at all. It's not a spinning sphere. And so that means that NASA is definitely necessarily lying, and they're definitely necessarily faking the dirt from the asteroids. I guess we should also probably mention that Osiris was one of the Egyptian gods of the underworld, and Rex means king. So why they name their missions and their spacecraft, or their Lie-mobiles, really, after Egyptian gods of the dead is, well, it's beyond the average Joe. But, to the viewer of this channel, y'all already know. I mean, these people are occultists. NASA was founded by, open Satanists and occultists, right? And literal Nazis, by the way. So, the lamestream media has really had a field day, like calling Donald Trump a Nazi, right? Which is kind of funny. But they also go around, doing interviews with the astronauts on the ISS too. So I don't know. What do you expect from the bird-brained mainstream media, right? The legacy media. And okay, what did they find in Osiris Rex? The Osiris Rex sample analysis team found that Bennu contains the original ingredients that formed our solar system. The asteroid's dust is rich in carbon and nitrogen, as well as organic compounds, all of which are essential components of life as we know it. So, I mean, that's the narrative they're trying to spin, and that was it. The narrative was done before they even got the thing open. They said that they knew how many billions of years old it was, and they claimed that it also had not life forms, but organic compounds in it, which is basically their way of saying, see, intelligent transpermia, right? And that means basically, life was seeded on planet Earth by aliens or whatever. That's sort of what the narrative they want the majority of people to go on with is, the whole ancient aliens shtick. I'm very familiar with, many of you guys are too, but that's what they're going with. They're trying to basically convince people that there's life in space, right? Because that's the next sort of logical evolution of NASA's lies is, first they go to space and they monkey around in gorilla suits. And, they start with like claymation animation in the 60s, and they graduate all the way to CGI now. Right, but they're just faking the shit, always have been, always will be. And when they do these little stunts like the ones that we're about to watch, it's really just for the consumption of the average Joe normie who isn't at all awake, right? Like, they vote Republican, they watch Fox News, or the other ones, right? One or the other. But in terms of being awake to anything, like yeah, 9/11 was done by Muslim terrorists with box cutters, right? And that's a pretty bad position to be in, but that is the majority of people are just sound asleep at the wheel. And you can't really blame them, right? Because look at what this system does to us, right? It rips families apart. It forces people to work outside the home and school their children outside of the home by the federal state, right? It's by the state. They've got people in a mess. Like they've decimated the family unit. They've divided households against one another, and they're just it's an insidious thing. But the only way that I think that we are going to get the average Joe normie to come awake to this sort of stuff and stop falling for NASA's bullshit is to prove to you that the Earth is not a spinning ball, right? And that once you realize that, everything else sort of goes out the window. So let's take a look at, and I'm going to have to switch over to share my screen. So let me stop this over here. Boom. Oh, I almost ended the stream. That's not what I want to do. Okay. And yeah. Bear with me, y'all. I can't think and breathe at the same time. Hold on. There she is, the lady with the hair, whatever her name is. I forget her name. But one thing I noticed, so this video here that we're looking at was streamed 12 years ago. I'm not sure if it's actually on a NASA official, so it may be even older than 12 years, but it's at least 12 years old. And I noticed, like, I mean, her hair is goofy, right? I mean, she's the lady with the hair, with the stiff hair, right?
Modules, you'll see they have 4 sides, and they're put together. That way we could sort of work on a flat plane, either a wall, a floor, another wall, or the ceiling. But, again, all you have to do is turn
That's
yourself.
so funny. Like, honestly, I had no idea that was going to be the first words that she said was something about a flat plane. I really didn't. But so just paying attention to her hair, because, I mean, we already kind of know that nowadays the liars, the liar-nauts, the astro liars, they fake stuff using CGI. And I've seen a good case made for, like, they're also using some sort of a VR to aid them in like manipulating objects in 3D space that aren't actually there, right? So this stuff is rendered in later on, or actually is rendered in practically in real time, right? But part of me sort of thinks that, like, now this lady here, the crazy one with the funky hair, I think her new hair might be CGI. I don't know. Y'all tell me what you think, but just, again, this is 12 years ago hair, so just watch this crazy fool a little while longer.
Changes. The reason I'm bringing that up is because this is where 4 out of 6 of us sleep. And so people always ask about sleeping in space.
You kind of notice that, like, her hair is very stiff, and it does kind of bounce back and forth a little bit, but then it goes right back to, it's almost like it's filled with hairspray or something. I don't know.
Do you lie down? Are you in
honestly, maybe even back then, maybe they were able to CGI hair like that. I don't know. I mean, we know that they're not in space, and I think that this video may be a little bit too long for the vomit gamma shots, right? Unless they've become just masters at editing this shit together, but I don't know. Just pay attention to the hair for a bit longer, y'all.
In bed? Not really, because it doesn't matter. You don't really have the sensation of lying down. You just sit in your sleeping bag. So here's one sleep station right here. I'm going in right now. You can follow me if you want. So I'm inside. It's sort of like a little phone booth, but it's pretty comfy. I've got a sleeping bag
Okay,
right
so
here
that's not
that we.
important. So again, 12 years ago. So let's fast forward to 2 days ago. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I saw this crazy woman on the news today, and she was like wishing the newscaster a happy Thanksgiving or whatever. I couldn't find that clip, but I did notice that her hair, you know, while it is a bit longer now than it was back then, it's sorry, somebody just knocked on my window. That was weird. Okay, what was I? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, y'all. So yeah, while her hair seems a little longer now than it was back then, it just looks different. I don't know. It just looks like maybe they improved the technology to fake hair. I don't know, but there she is. This whole scene right here, these goofy motherfuckers. The whole thing looks wrong. It just looks like CGI to me. All of it, like filled with it. But pay attention to her hair. I'm gonna mute this. I really don't want to hear them. They make me sick. But like, and it is still goofy, but you see how it's like it's more hair-like. I don't know. It's just something rubs me the wrong way about it. And I'm not set up to do like video forensics on this computer, but there's plenty of people out there who've got that ability. I mean, I guess I could do like still shots in Photoshop or something, but I don't know. Watch how this crazy thing's hair moves. Let me go back to the beginning because that's where it really was noticeable. See how it just sort of bounces and flows naturally? I don't know. It just doesn't look the same. Like, what did they upgrade their capacity to fake hair in space? Like, again, so go back to this one here. Sunny Williams.
Hello, I'm Sunny Williams. I'm up here on the International Space Station. So this is Node 2. This is a really cool module. Of course, most of these modules you'll see they have 4 sides, and they're put together. That way we could sort of work on a flat plane, either a wall, a floor, another wall, or the ceiling. But, you know, again, all you have to do is turn yourself and your reference changes.
That's almost like costume hair or something. Like, I don't think that's CGI. If it is, it's really good, right? Because that's when CGI is at its best, when you can't tell. But I think that she's wearing some kind of a dang, I don't know, prop hair or something. It just doesn't look right. I mean, this has bugged a lot of people over the years, right? But this, you know, same woman, her hair is a bit longer, but not a whole lot longer. And just look how much differently it behaves now. You see what I'm saying, y'all? Like, maybe I'm crazy, but, and you know, let's just juxtapose that, right? Let's bring it way back to the first spacewalk. Yuri, wasn't his name Yuri something? But look at what they, yeah. So this is what they started with. This was how they were faking space originally, right? And they didn't have fake hair or CGI'd hair. They had claymation, like I believe stop motion animation. I mean, that's really bad. And that's really bad fakery. So, okay, so that's not NASA, but NASA was doing the same thing. We can pull up one of, what was that one guy's name? Ed Gaines. I want to say Ed Gaines every time. His name's Ed G. Spacewalk. I want to say this was the first American spacewalk. Yeah, this is the one right here where he loses his glove. And they try to copyright strike me on this every time I put this in a video on that first spacewalk. But I mean, so this is the NASA fakery back then. I mean, it is bad. I mean, it was good for the time, don't get me wrong, but like it wouldn't pass these days, right? Pretty damn bad. And you notice how his suit isn't inflated at all. Like, they at least did that better in the 60s. They made the suits look like Stay Puft Marshmallow Men, because, you know, if you go into a vacuum environment, your suit should explode and then your head should explode, right? I mean, just look how bad this is. The fakery is. And did you see how he turned his head? Did you notice that? So let me back this up. This is where they're really caught red-handed, y'all. When he turns his head right there like that and then waves, those helmets don't turn like that, right? This is an animation. It's really well done for the time animation, but again, it doesn't hold up over the years. And like I bet you, and I haven't, but I bet you if you were to take these old NASA videos into video forensics programs, you can find all kinds of stuff wrong with it because it is definitely fake. Very professional, state-of-the-art, cutting edge for its time. There went his glove, right? But fake nonetheless. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a progression, right? Technology progresses, it evolves. Like technology starts out rudimentary, you know, and then people improve on it. They make it, you know, cheaper, more cost-effective, and improve on it in any and all ways, right? Except for space travel technology, that always only ever gets worse, right? For whatever reason. But their fakery gets better and better, as you would expect, you know. And it just goes to show you that's what they're doing. That's what they've always been doing. They have to fake it because space isn't real, right? And like, what's the motive behind that? I've gone into great depths and detail. It's a pretty insidious motive, I think, but it boils down to control. They want control over people. And people are much easier to control if they don't realize that they are like divinely created sovereign beings of light and love, right? People think that they are like a chemical happenstance, incidental, you know, accident, spinning around in a speck of dust in space, right? It kind of puts a different meaning on everything, doesn't it? Like in the grand scheme of things, there's no meaning to any of it, according to the sort of Copernican principle, right? But that's all bullshit, folks. All bullshit. So yeah, enough of the lie SS. I just wanted to point that out. Let me know what y'all think in the comments. Oh, and I forgot to mention at the beginning. I know on last time I streamed, I didn't realize it until I got off that someone had put in a super chat, and I don't have the ability to see super chats come in on the back end. So if y'all remind me, I'll check for super chats at the end, but I'm going to have to like remember to do it. Otherwise, I have no way of knowing if y'all send a super chat. But it is set up to where you can if you want to. I just don't know how quick I'll see it. So sorry about that. Anyway, so let me close this crazy hole. I can't stand them. They burn me up. Burns me up, makes me sick, man. And there is, I don't know, I kind of reserve the possibility that maybe they are under some form of hypnosis to where they are, you know, they're given false memories and other memories are extracted by hypnotists. It's either something like that or they're just all psychopaths. I mean, they have to be, right? But I mean, I guess, you know, they would still have that sort of plausible deniability if they were, you know, and deep into the whole MK Ultra thing, you know, the Manchurian Candidate thing. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe they are. If that's the case, you know, we should pray for them and not make fun of their hair. I mean, she does have some goofy hair, but I pray for that crazy old hoe too, for real. Okay. So yeah, there's that spacewalk. We can close that. Okay, so here we go. This is the one. Oh wait, no. Before we go into that, yeah. So no news on Osiris Rex. That's the big thing I wanted to talk about. There is no news. There is nothing else. It returned to Earth September 2023. It's been over a year, and now it's off on a new mission to explore another asteroid in 2029. Right? I mean, this is how they keep getting billion-dollar budget increases. It's up to like 25 or so odd billion annually that NASA gets. It's because they put out these fake ass publicity stunts, but people believe it. And I'm convinced that it is nothing more than a big money laundering operation, NASA, in my opinion. And this video is just for entertainment purposes only. Don't listen to me. Right. Yeah, so a couple comments I was just going to hit through because, you know, you can see here, I just wanted to show you guys because nobody believes me until I show you. YouTube holds comments and doesn't publish them. And it's not me doing it, it's just YouTube does it and holds all these comments for review as potentially inappropriate. And you have to go through and manually approve each one, and they stack up fast too. So I just want to read a few of these because I found a couple of funny ones in here that I would respond to. The Book of Life 24 says, "Epic projection, bro." Yeah, not really. Okay. Couldn't even hear the vacuum. Oh, well, thank you. Here we go. So this one here, this was in response to the Transpocalypse 2025 stream I did like last week. Exit is a beautiful life. O says, "What say you of the sacred Hijra, two-spirit eunuchs that have existed for thousands of years and are seen as divine beings amongst their community?" Well, like I said, I think to each his own. I would never try to stop a person from pursuing their personal passions, right? To each his own. I think that's up to each individual, right? But I would also argue that I don't think there were many voluntary eunuchs. I mean, maybe I am familiar with the Hijras, the Hindu sort of trainee priests or whatever priestesses. And they did eunuch themselves, from what I gather. But typically, eunuchs were slaves. Typically, eunuchs had their junk cut off so that they couldn't impregnate the master's wives or concubines or sex slaves. So I don't know. And then she continues on. "Are you going to ignore biology? You scared, insecure boys all had a vagina with a..." Wow. Oh, wow. That keeps going. That is a long comment. "Ignore biology. Wow. See, that's just gross. Okay, so I'm not going to read this comment. Sorry, y'all. It's just too weird, and it's way too long. I thought it was just something weird I was going to respond to. I didn't know it was super weird. But yeah, Exit is a beautiful life. Let's smoke a blunt sometime for sure. Absolutely. I'm in South Carolina, so hit me up. Sorry, y'all. I think I lost the the comments that I was trying to. There was like a couple I had marked, and I think I might have refreshed the page, y'all. Anyways, we're gonna just go off to the next thing. It's just such weird comments every time we talk about Transpocalypse. That's why I try not to talk about it much because it's just such a bizarre conversation. It's so weird. I mean, I do think it's very important. It's something that's so important that people should wake up to. But don't shoot the messenger, and I can't talk about it all the time. It's just too bizarre. Okay. Here we go. Let's go ahead and start responding to this now that everybody's had a chance to pop in. Okay, so already he's making the case that somebody who believes the Earth is flat is like akin to somebody believing that tooth decay is caused by tooth worms. Okay, strange argument. But and by the way, I guess I should just give a little preface on this. I did put a link to this video in the description box below if you'd like to watch the entire video uninterrupted. I probably won't respond to the whole thing. But the reason that we're even looking at this video is I did a YouTube search for flat Earth proof, and this was within the top 10 results. Okay, so these are sort of the videos when I do responses to, I have little rules made for myself, right? So like when I do these videos, the way that I find them is I'm going to search for flat earth proof on YouTube, and then within the top 10 I'm going to respond to, and that's where I found this one, to like the most ridiculous globe-tarded nonsense arguments. But that's what YouTube, that's what the algorithm pushes out to just everyday average Joe people that are researching flat earth proof. It's a damn shame. It is a damn shame. I just want to add, it's a damn shame, right? Because we live in the information age and so many amazing things are like on the threshold, right? Like we really are right around the corner from just a huge, massive awakening and a golden age. I believe we can get there, but not the way things are going. Like shit has got to change drastically, right? And I do firmly believe that that this particular part of the deception is key to unlocking so many others. Um, anyway. I mean, good point. That's a very good point because the whole thing about science is repeatable, and you're not really technically doing science until you go through experimentation process, right? And change your variables and do some experimenting, right? Then you're doing science. But like reading a book or talking to a doctor who tells you some shit is science, that is not science, okay? And while I do agree with what he's saying, like, yeah, how do you know that it's not tooth worms and it's just, carbohydrates and acid? Like, how do we really know? How do we know that it's not just dentists making shit up? That's a good point. And I really don't trust dentists much anyway, because these are the very people that have told us to lace our tap water with the developmental neurotoxin sodium fluoride. Okay. So I think dentists are, don't really have a leg to stand on in any sort of rational discussion about teeth. Just my humble opinion, sorry to say. I wonder, that's funny. I wonder if any of that has to do with like, if you pull a tooth out and you see the little nerve in there, it actually wriggles around like a little worm. I'm just wondering if maybe that's what they thought, like, right? So like you got a toothache, they pull your tooth out and they see a little wriggling thing. Oh, tooth worms. I mean, maybe that's what they thought. Who knows? I mean, that doesn't mean they were stupid, right? It doesn't mean that these ancient people were stupid. Maybe it just means that's what they believed. But, I'm not sure why this conversation always ends up talking about what people believe, right? Because this conversation about the static plane Earth, it doesn't have anything to do with belief, right? It has to do with basic objective measurements, geometry, right? Physics, not brain worms or whatever the fuck this guy's talking about. Oh, excuse my French. Sorry. Most of us accept the Earth is a sphere, and that is true. I'm not going to argue with him on that, but I think the deeper question is why? Why do most people accept that the Earth is a sphere? Um, and if you actually think about it, if you're honest with yourself, um, most people don't actually remember the first time they were told that the Earth is a sphere. It predates their first memory thinking that the Earth was a sphere, um, which is strange. Now, I personally, I do remember the first time I was told that the Earth was a sphere, and it was long before I ever set foot in any schoolroom. I was like a little kid, like 4 years old, 5 years old, something. My dad told me the Earth was a sphere, and he showed me the little globe on the counter. And I remember being incredulous then, but that didn't last very long, maybe 20 minutes. And, my dad explained to me that, no, we don't live on the top of the ball. We live on the side, and we stuck to it because of gravity. I remember learning about that when I was very, very young. But again, most people don't remember the first time that they heard that the Earth was a sphere, and it kind of just was a given. It was something that all of the figures of authority in like school or in the household, your parents, relatives. It's what everybody was taught to accept. You know, it didn't just fall out of the dang sky. You know what I mean? People do accept that the Earth is a sphere because it has been ingrained into our psyche at a subconscious level since before we were really truly online as sovereign people, right? That's how long they've been drilling us with the heliocentric sort of Copernican nonsense. And see, I have a contention with that claim, right? And he's not the only globetard to claim that people have known the Earth was a ball for thousands of years. Okay, so if that's true, then first of all, why are there no globes older than 1493? Right? That's the oldest globe you're ever going to find even record of being made. Okay, but even besides that point, okay, because that's sort of circumstantial, right? It doesn't really prove anything. But what about the Columbus's disagreement with Eratosthenes' value? Okay, because if you remember at the beginning of this stream, we talked about how Columbus, even to this day, we call Native Americans Indians because Columbus thought that he was reaching like the east coast of the Indian subcontinent, right? That's what he thought even until the day he died, right? When in fact he was in the Bahamas, right? But the reason that he had that misconception and the reason that such a misconception could even come about was because Christopher Columbus had a different assumed value than actual. He thought that from the Canary Islands to the east coast of India, like where Japan is, he thought that was about 6,600 miles, right? When in fact, where he made it to, in the Bahamas, was actually 12,000 miles, right? So like, if Columbus knew that the Earth was a ball, he thought it was a very small ball. And maybe I'm explaining this wrong, but I can pull up a graphic because it's a known thing. Like I'm not just pulling this out of my ass, right? Columbus value versus Eratosthenes value. Yeah, here it is right here. Let me share my screen with y'all lovely people here. Yeah, so okay, so I did say it wrong. So Columbus's value from the Canary Islands to Japan, he thought it was 6,000 miles, when in reality the distance from Canary Islands to Japan is 12,000 miles, right? So when he made it 6,000 miles or whatever, he wasn't even he was like halfway there or whatever. Okay, so but that's my point though. That's my point. So if we've known that the Earth is a sphere for thousands of years, then why are the globes only around since 1490s? And why was Christopher Columbus so misinformed about this globe? Right? I don't know, man. It just seems kind of strange to me, but whatever. Okay, so that is a claim that globetards make, is that we've known for thousands of years that the Earth is a sphere. But again, I would also argue that maybe according to the narrative, there were some ancient Greek dudes kicking the idea around. And like, yeah, Eratosthenes was estimating the size of the assumed ball using a brilliant application of the Pythagorean theorem, mind you, but still going into that measurement with an assumption of a ball, right? And so doesn't really prove anything, does it? But again, to go from that, to go from Eratosthenes estimating the size of the hypothetical ball to everyone knowing the Earth was a ball for thousands of years, in spite of the fact that Columbus got it so damn wrong and there were no globes up until 1493. I don't know, man. It seems to me like this whole ball Earth thing is about 500 years old, give or take. Maybe, and maybe not even that. It could be, because again, we don't really know what's going on in history. Like, yes, we have history books, and yes, we have architecture, but there's been a lot of deception in pretty much all realms of history and science. It is scientism rearing its ugly head everywhere, isn't it? But that's the point I was going to make right there about Columbus disagreeing with Eratosthenes, even though everyone knew the Earth was a ball for thousands of years. Yeah. Okay. And wait a minute. Can y'all tell me in the chat if you can hear the video? I totally forgot to check that. If you don't mind, let me know. And I guess y'all will probably be letting me know if you couldn't hear it. So let me just check the chat real quick, y'all. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything in the chat. So let me just open up another. Oh no, I gotta go over here, don't I? Yeah. Half tater, yeah. How you seal it? How do you turn a sealed helmet exactly? Hey YouTube, what's up, man? Yes, I am in my own home. I am no longer in a hotel anymore, so thank God for small mercies, man. That was a damn nightmare, let me tell you. YouTube says on the phone it's harder to block ads. Yeah. Okay. I guess y'all would let me know if you could not hear the video. So I'm just gonna keep going. Great. Thank you, Ronald. Appreciate you, brother. All right, let's continue on then. Sorry, I gotta back that up because I missed that whole point. Let's see. Right. So European explorers sailing around it, which, by the way, you can circumnavigate a plane, especially one with a magnetic center, right? So that's not exclusive to a sphere. Okay. And this video is a bit dated, but it just goes to show you that this very popular YouTuber with over 5 million subscribers and over 700,000 views on this video hasn't done his research into the topic, and it is proven by the arguments that he makes, right? Because that's one of the first things that any diligent globe earth skeptic realizes is that circumnavigation is not exclusive to a sphere, right? Because that's one of the things that they told us, like, well, we know it's a ball because circumnavigation. Well, yeah, but if you think about it, if you walk around your house, does that mean that your yard is a sphere? You can go around things, and if we have a magnetic center in the north, then it works either way. Okay. There's so many instances where the globe Earth has been presented to us as the only exclusive explanation for all sorts of things, right? And according to them, it works perfectly to explain everything. But the problem is, if you actually skeptically like revisit your beliefs in the spinning ball Earth, it falls apart, right? And this is just another example of why this guy's got his head up his ass. I'm sorry to say, but it, you know, it is this drivel that YouTube pushes out as flat Earth proof. And you know, I would just pause it here and ask, if the Earth is such a sphere that they're taking these pictures of, then why are you using CGI to demonstrate that sphere, right? Just a question. Oh, and don't you just love how they put the ball and squished it in space? Like nothing changes, right? We're still in infinite space, but we just squished the ball and it's just a flat Earth disk flying around in space. So stupid. Damn right. I'm just going to make a quick point about Robotham. By the way, the book that Robotham was famous for writing is Zetetic Astronomy, and it's a groundbreaking book. It was published first in 1865. I've got the full audiobook as a playlist on my channel, so just go to my playlist and look for Zetetic Astronomy. I've also got Zetetic Cosmogony on there too, which is a little newer, is a little shorter, but it's not written by Robotham. The thing that I was going to say is that I found this very interesting. But so Robotham was born in 1816. Zetetic was published in 1865, so he was like what 50 or whatever, 49 when he published it. Well, according to him, like the globe Earth propaganda and like all of the tropes that we're so familiar with, like, you know, the ships going over the curve and the circumnavigation and all these other exclusive proofs of the ball, that was the case even back then. Like even so far as to say the Coriolis effect, I think, if I'm not mistaken, but all of them, like pretty much everything that goes into the elementary school science books to prove that the Earth is a sphere, that had been going on and had been drummed into the youngins' heads even then. Now, I also know that Robotham was a Freemason, okay? And a lot of people think that, you know, he loses a lot of brownie points because he was a Freemason. I don't know. I'm not so sure. Back in those days, from what I gather, everybody that wanted to make it in any sort of not just the business world, but any sort of trade, really, if you wanted to make it successfully, you kind of had to be a Freemason, right? If you weren't a Freemason, then you were just kind of unskilled labor, you know, fending for yourself, right? But, you know, whatever, be that as it may, I also sort of have a sneaking suspicion that the globe Earth deception has its roots heavily in Freemasonry. And so I think a lot of the Freemasonic symbology is kind of like hiding the static plane truth in plain sight. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of Freemasons know that the Earth isn't a spinning ball, because it is kind of obvious, especially for people who like build large structures and, you know, use tools like plumb bobs and levels and things like that, or, you know, whatever. The point is that I was trying to make, though, is that the globe Earth deception had been drilled into the heads of youngins even back then in the 1800s, right? And so that still does kind of fit in line with my suspicion that this whole deception started around 1500, right? Right after Columbus sailed the oceans blue. And like y'all know me, I think a lot of this great deception also has to do with the founding or the foundedness of America or whatever, right? And you know, they call it the colonization period, but one could say the genocide period or the you know, the human trafficking period or whatever. And happy Thanksgiving, everybody. But that's what a stupid way to say that. So he was so confident in his theory, he thought that he would prove it. No, that's not like, it was obvious what he was being told by academia was wrong. And so the evidence speaks for itself. Like, so clearly this dude hasn't even read the book, Zetetic Astronomy. It's a great book, man. Like, I don't know, the end it gets a little bit, it gets very religious. Like he's way into the Bible at the end, but you know, I'm cool with that too, man. I don't know. I'm just not 100% sure that the flat earth argument and biblical stuff necessarily goes in the same argument, at least not in modern times, right? Because there are a lot of atheists out there that if you start merging flat earth with Christianity, they're going to shove you away with both hands just because they don't want to hear nothing about Christianity. But on the other hand, you know, if you can prove to them that the earth isn't a spinning ball, which it isn't, a lot of times that actually brings people closer to God because it shatters this whole paradigm belief system that, you know, the whole Copernican principle, right? It's very depressing, but once you get through that and come out the other side, it is liberating, right? The truth will set you free indeed. So the Bedford level, he said confusingly is a canal. I think he's saying, so it's, the name is weird. It's called the Bedford level and confusingly is a canal, right? The thing is, it's called the Bedford level because it's level for and straight for many, many miles in a row. Several miles straight on level with no breaks, right? That's why it's called the Bedford level. But I don't think that's very confusing, right? The horizon is horizontal and water is level. It's not a curved level, it's level, straight to the horizon, just like it appears. Well, according to globe Earth geometry, not his calculations, right? Because see, the claim here isn't Robothams. The claim that he's testing is y'all's claim, the Globetards claim, right? So the way that this dude is couching it is very like this is beyond obtuseness, right? This dude is like meticulously, purposefully obtuse, if you catch my drift. Almost borderline like being deceptive. Oh, he forgot about standard refraction, is what they're going to say. And actually, that's not true. In even the first edition of Zetetic Astronomy, he mentioned refraction in there. So, like, it's not like he forgot about it. He didn't account for it because, well, I'm not going to apologize for Robotham's methods, but this dude here is being deceptive about it, is my point. Well, there was more to it than that because see, once you realize that it's level, you start going through the checklist of all the so-called evidence, like the proofs that you have in your head of why you believe the Earth is a spinning ball. So like, you know, the ships go over the curve, the Coriolis effect, circumnavigation. There's all these little exclusive proofs of the ball. But if you actually go and test those claims, many of them are simply not exclusive to a ball, so it's a moot point. But many of them are just, it's just so absurd. Like the concept of even like, you know, like say what goes up must come down, right? So like gravity. What goes up must come down is sort of like the last thing you would expect if you were standing on the side of a spinning ball somehow, right? You wouldn't expect things to fall towards a gyroscopic edge spinning around 1,000 miles an hour. So like what goes up must come down is kind of counterintuitive to a spinning ball, right? But the scientists invented the theory of gravity to explain why things don't go flying off the face of the earth at 1,000 miles an hour near the equator, right? That's gravity. Okay. But to say that what goes up must come down is somehow exclusive proof of a spinning ball is like a perfect example of how asinine people's thinking has become on this issue. Not because they're stupid or not because they are like evil, or it's because they're deceived. They've been deceived just like we all were since we were little kids. It's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, it's something, again, it's very liberating once you come to terms with it. But I don't know. Let's just continue on with it. It's such a fucking depressing thing, man. It's so funny because there are a dozen of really good, interesting globe Earth debunks detailed in that book. Another one I'll mention that really made me think was they took like, he says cannons, but I think they were more like air rifles, some kind of projectiles that they aligned perfectly vertically on with a plumb bob, so that's straight up and down. And just on a still day, they fired it perfectly vertically, right? And invariably, the projectile would land within a few feet of the cannon that fired it. And then sometimes the ball or whatever it was, the projectile, would land directly back into the barrel of the cannon that fired it, right? Sometime, like once in a while, that would happen. But you know, if you think about it, that really shouldn't happen on spinning ball Earth, even if you hand them gravity for argument's sake, right? Because like if you think about how centrifugal force works and how just physics works, and how like a rotating body as a fixed frame of reference, so like the gravitron at the fair is a good example. Objects that are loosed from that spinning frame of reference, that inertial frame of reference, those loosed objects simply don't keep spinning around the center as they did when they were firmly attached to whatever the object is, the gravitron or the Earth, right? And so, like when you see this data, which is again projectiles fired perfectly vertically, don't, you know, deviate as you would expect them to do if we were spinning faster than the speed of sound towards the east along a curve. Like at the very least, you would expect the thing to come down at least a slightly different angle, right? But really, technically, it should come down at a way different angle, like miles off to the freaking west, right? Because it's not going to retain that rotational frame of reference as it did when it was inside of the barrel of the cannon before it was fired, right? That's just not how physics works. And so that is one thing. That's another huge thing that was detailed in Zetetic. And it's, you know, it's something that we've kind of always known, right? I had a buddy of mine, Ben Dean, I grew up with down in Florida. And this motherfucker could just like throw shit super high. Like he could also like do like triple flips into the pool. Like the motherfucker was just talented in certain ways. Everybody's got their talents, right? But this motherfucker could throw shit straight up and it would get hang time like ridiculous, like 10, 12 seconds sometimes, which is crazy. But you know, I got to thinking back on that. Yeah, man, that's true. When Ben would throw like whatever, like rocks or like even like big pieces of mulch get a good spin on it or whatever. Like if I throw it up, yeah, it goes straight up and down and it comes back down in a second or two. But no, even when this motherfucker throws it, 10, 12 seconds and it's just up there spinning and you can see it and it's just sitting there and it comes straight back down. Yeah, that's true. Like, yeah, that, if we were spinning supersonic like towards the east around a curve, that would be different, right? So like what Robotham is detailing with that experiment with the projectiles, I think is it's a brilliant proof, and shouldn't just be looked past by somebody who's critiquing Robotham's work. So like this is a hit piece done by a globe-tart. I wonder if they're getting paid directly by like DARPA or the Department of Defense or something to do this propaganda. I really do wonder. Because you can't, I'm sorry, but you can't just accidentally omit the best of someone's work when you're basically calling them a charlatan, right? See, I don't believe that for a second because, again, the ships over the horizon is another one of those things that everybody has known since they were a little kid, right? And it was even detailed as such in that book. So I don't believe for a second this anecdote that this dude's telling. Maybe somebody did account that. I'm not saying this guy pulled that anecdote out of his ass, but it sounds to me like that's a load of crap. Anybody who's read Zetetic Astronomy or at least listened to the audiobook, when I go back, I'll try to remember to put a card for the audiobook on this video you're watching here. So we'll just link straight to the playlist. But anybody that's read that book knows that what this guy's saying is bullshit. Like he's full of it. And by the way, it's perspective. For those of you who don't know, it's perspective. That's what causes the ships to go over the curve. It is the natural operation of perspective, which, it doesn't happen in the real world. It happens subjectively in the eye of the beholder, right? And you also have refraction, which does play a role in that. It's an optical illusion. But ships going out towards the horizon and the bottom portion of the hull being covered up by the horizon first is perfectly in line with the operation of perspective upon a plane. And that was very nicely detailed and explained in a certain way that made it 100% solid. Like, dude, Robotham kind of had this shit down to a science. If you read the book, he was, the dude did his homework. He wasn't just sloppy Joe in it. And for this guy to just omit that and to make this claim is pretty dubious. I mean, maybe he read this claim somewhere. I don't buy it. And again, and I'm sorry to keep interrupting y'all, and I know this pisses some people off, but if we're proving that the Earth is a spinning ball, why are you picking on this dude, right? Because you're supposedly debunking flat Earth, but you're character assassinating a guy that died hundreds of years ago. What's that about? No, it's not. It's actually perfectly fitting. I wonder if this guy, I seriously doubt this dude even read the book. Really, I doubt that he did. Okay, so wait a minute. So what has that got to do with the price of tea in China, dude? Like, what is the correlation? So first you're character assassinating Robotham, and then someone took the word zetetic, which is derived from the ancient Greek word zeteo, which does indeed mean to proceed by inquiry. right? But the context that he meant that in is kind of like a snub in the nose of the theorists that were sort of ruling the day even then, right? Because the theorists basically, if they can't, you can't experiment on things that are in the sky and the stars, right? You can't do experiments on the stars or the moon, right? So they fill in everything with theory, and they take assumptions, and they make mathematical equations that are brilliant applications of all sorts of, complicated mathematical principles. At the end of the day, it is all hypothetical and is not actually applying to anything real. It's just in their heads, right? So I don't know, man. Back to it. Well, whoop-de-doo. Well, I guess that definitely proves the Earth is a spinning ball, doesn't it? Okay. So this to me is part of the deception. Like, I don't think that's what's going on here. Like, they've got this disk Earth with a dome flying around in space. I don't know, man. Maybe that's what it is. I don't think so. I think it is. I think we'd be surprised to learn what's beyond the realm, beyond the Antarctic, if you will. Wouldn't it be nice if we had NASA's budget instead of those liars? Well, the thing is, though, it is kind of easy to debate people when you are obviously right and they are, let's just say that the little lump in their throat is their nose. It's easy to debate people that have their head up their ass, right? Because, like, when the truth is on your side, who is against you? Wow. So he went from being stumped by an argument that we learn about in kindergarten, right? He went from being stumped by that to a master debater that was winning all the debates, right? Yeah, that's a narrative I don't believe. Well, okay. So what did he say? It was 14 miles. Is that what he said? I think that's what he said. And we'll just go ahead and we'll knock off 4 because we don't know the height of the observer, but we'll say that we're looking for about 10 miles of curvature, right? Um, Let me just get out my calculator. Let me know if I have one here. Let's see. So we'll just do 10 miles times 10 miles times 0.66666. So yeah, there should be 66 feet of curvature, right? So depending on how tall the lighthouse is, you know, I don't know. So maybe it was in line with that. I don't know where the guy's going with this, but there are lots of examples in the first edition of Zetetic Astronomy that talk about probably a half a dozen lighthouses that are like way further than 10 miles, right? That are visible at sea, 30 miles or 40 miles, which, at those distances, the tip top of the peak, if the Earth was a ball, the tip top of the lighthouse should be, like dozens and dozens of feet below the horizon line, right? So whatever narrative this guy's spinning about one particular lighthouse that's only 14 miles away, that's suspect to me, again, because the book details lighthouses that are at least 20 miles away, some of them further than 30, I believe. So again, I'm not sure why this dude is being so deceptive, right? Because lying comes with omitting details too, right? Doesn't it? So like if you're gonna pick on somebody for like being stupid about this and then omit details where they clearly weren't stupid about that very thing, to me, like it really just goes to show that this guy is he's being purposefully deceptive here, right? He's not just accidentally like a bad researcher. Um, that's crazy. Because this is supposedly independent media, isn't it?
Oh, I thought I heard it. I didn't know if it was my alarm. I didn't set my alarm on my phone. I could hear an alarm. Oh, I didn't know.
And that's so funny because I know exactly where that picture's from. I did a video on this. It's a 1946 rocket launch, and it was absolutely faked. I will try to remember to put a card for that video here as well. Yeah, 1947 rocket launch hoax. Um, in my opinion, it was very obviously faked. And in that video, I do like slow it down and zoom in and do a bit of video forensics on it. And just some common sense shows that, yeah, they were faking it with models and everything. This picture that he's claiming is the first picture of the Earth from space. So, don't know what that actually proves if it's fake. What about airships? Like, yeah, okay, so the airplane was invented in 1901, right? But when was the airship invented? I know, I'm pretty sure that the hot air balloon goes back to like ancient China or something, doesn't it? I don't know. Let's see. So when yeah, 1852, the airship was invented, and that is before the first edition of Zetetic Astronomy. So Rowbotham was not ignorant to that sort of thing. And in fact, like he even details the accounts of ballooneers or whatever you want to call them from that time. So, these claims, like these claims this guy is making are false claims. Like he's absolutely full of it. And the fact that YouTube algorithm pushes out this nonsense that is fake news, in my opinion, and is probably funded by some government organization. Honestly, I don't see someone making drivel like this on purpose without having some sort of monetary incentive thrown at their feet, right? I wonder if this guy's a Freemason. Just saying. Wait, what did I missed that? I must have been miles away. Let me back that up. I'm sorry, y'all. I missed that point. Yeah, that bit's important. It goes to show how foolish your argument is. That doesn't prove anything. Um, I'm not going to try to get into the argument of seasonal variance of visible space and how visible space should work on spinning ball Earth, but it doesn't. And the argument that he's claiming, like the visible stars, different on different hemispheres, doesn't prove anything. It is such a lame argument. It is. To me, it's fascinating why he's going to attack these sort of ridiculous straw man arguments rather than actually responding to the points that Robotham was on about all those decades, hundreds of years ago. So what does that got to do with anything? Okay, so the dude thought about evolution before Darwin. Okay, so that somehow qualifies him to what? Let's see. That's nonsense because again, I can probably even find the page for you in the first edition of Zetetic Astronomy where Robotham mentions atmospheric refraction, um, and that it's a variable. Yeah, atmospheric refraction will cause light to either like tend downward, like it'll tend towards the higher density gradient, or it'll like what they're saying is it'll cause the spherical Earth to deviously present itself as a planar surface. That's what they're saying. So, but this dude is like he's lying though, because again, atmospheric refraction was dealt with. Like he definitely knew about atmospheric refraction during first edition of Zetetic. So again, I'm not sure what this dude's talking about. I would say read the book because obviously he's critiquing a book that he didn't read, which is to me that is like we can pretty much stop watching this video now. But again, he's supposed to be debunking flat Earth. Okay, so again, this is a moot point. So like, I'll prove it to y'all. Let me pull up first edition's aesthetic. Hell. No, I'm not going to register. Okay, well, this will just be my cue to once again direct y'all to the Zetetic Astronomy audiobook on my channel. And a matter of fact, I'll go ahead and grab a link and I'll put it in the, well, I'm not going to do that now. I'm not going to bore y'all to death, man. Let's just continue on with this drivel here. God, we're only like halfway through it. But yeah, like the claim that Robotham had never heard of atmospheric refraction is a lie. He's misrepresenting what was in first edition of Zetetic Astronomy. So that's, to me, that's disingenuous. Unless I've got a first edition that's like a revised first edition. I mean, maybe there's a chance I could be wrong here. You know what I mean on that point. But it still doesn't prove anything. Like. Like what some dude 200 years ago thought, or what some dude 200 years ago knew, doesn't prove anything about curvature of the Earth or supersonic motion of the Earth, for starters. Not even to mention the hypersonic, ludicrous orbital velocities that have no physical evidence for those either. Black Swan, right? I mean, that's really all you got to say at this point is Black Swan, right? So let's just let's see if we can get a graphic to show y'all. Come on, baby. So this is the, I guess I'd better pull this up. Bear with me 1 second, y'all.
Thank you.
Oh, that's only 72 DPI, isn't it? Okay, so the Black Swan observation, and I will show you some of the other images that were on the Google search as well. But okay, so if the Earth is a sphere with the spherical radius of just under 4,000 miles, so like a circumference of about 25,000 miles, there's a specific amount of curvature that you would expect to observe if we lived on such a sphere. And that is a calculable drop, like a vertical descent from horizontal, right? And so there's a geometric horizon, right? So that geometric horizon would be like where your line of sight becomes tangent to the hypothetical curve of the Earth, right? That geometric horizon should be a specific distance from the observer based on his elevation above sea level, right? These two oil drill platforms, whatever they are, the first one being 6.2 miles away, the other one being 9.4 miles away, are both beyond the geometric horizon of this observer, right? So this observer is standing like, say, 6 feet tall. It's actually much less than that. But his horizon, his geometric horizon should be, say, about 3 miles away. And these oil platforms should be, dropping down vertically, descending along that curve if the Earth was a sphere, as they claim. And so what this guy's saying is that the spherical Earth is deviously presenting itself as a planar surface, even in this example. All right, let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb. So that's Black Swan, right? That's what that argument is, and it's been made pretty popular by the Nathan Oakley crew over there on Nathan Oakley channel. So that's really enough said right there. I mean, just look into Black Swan, and if the spherical Earth was as they claim, it should have a measurable expected degree of curvature that just simply doesn't exist. Now, to claim that the variable of refraction, so here's the same two towers from a different image, and I think this one was probably taken much lower down, and you can see that, yeah, more of it's obscured, right? So what does that prove? Well, it proves that atmospheric refraction is definitely a thing. It definitely causes incoming light to tend towards the higher density gradient, right? So like the higher density gradient means towards the ground, right? Because it's more dense air towards the ground. And so that's perfectly in line of perspective on a plane with a dash of atmospheric refraction. That's why sometimes these platforms will be obscured by the horizon, and sometimes they will be clearly, not. And so the thing is the geometry of the spherical Earth that they claim, it shouldn't be changing like that. It shouldn't be devious, right? Atmospheric refraction is kind of dumb. It's not that smart to trick, trained observers into thinking that what you're looking at right here is actually a curved surface, right? Because you shouldn't be able to see what we're seeing. And it's, refraction aside, that's not exactly what refraction does. Exactly what refraction does is what you're seeing here. It'll cause those things to drop, right? And that's what we're saying. It's exactly what it does. So, Black Swan, son. Back to this crazy video. And I just wholeheartedly disagree with his explanation of how atmospheric refraction works and affects light. Um, and I will pull up a demonstration real quick that just perfectly shows exactly what we're talking about. Right. So basically, this container is just water, and then usually they'll put sugar in it and not stir the sugar up. They'll just dump a bunch of sugar in it and let the sugar sort of sink to the bottom and dissolve naturally, like let it sit there about 24 hours, and then just shine a laser beam through it, and it shows you exactly what's happening with light as it refracts. So the light bends to the higher density gradient. It bends towards the higher density gradient, not towards the lower density gradient. And in fact, we see this with sunset and moonset and starset. All the heavenly luminaries are affected by atmospheric refraction. And the atmospheric refraction increases as they appear closer to the horizon. So it's like an exponential effect. It's because the atmosphere is thickest near the horizon. So there's more more magnification, more lensing going on in the air, right? But when we see the moon or say the sun going away from us on the plane, it apparently drops, with perspective. Then also refraction causes it to drop even lower than it actually normally would appear, like if we lived in a vacuum, right? So what this guy is saying that refraction does is the opposite of what refraction actually does, right? But see, they have to explain it that way. They have to explain it backwards from reality, because it has to be that way in order for the Earth to be a ball, don't you see? And everybody knows that the Earth is a ball. So we always start from that axiom that the Earth is definitely a ball and work backwards from there. That's how we do anti-science. That's how we do pseudoscience, guys, just like this guy here. I guess he's like a DARPA employee or something. I don't know. Great accent, though. Love his accent. Why would setting it higher above the water, I don't know, man. Like it's still, I don't know. I'm not going to argue that. Is it because see again, like I'm not sure what point this guy is making with that. It's like one of those points where, like, I don't know. I already know he's being purposefully deceptive about so many other things that I've caught him in. It's difficult for me to really pay attention to the meat of what he's saying, and I'm always sort of trying to read between the lines of what he's saying, and I'm just missing the whole damn boat. But that's me. I'm a Riri. Therefore, the Earth is a spinning ball. I swear, like, did I say this was 5 years old? Oh, 3 years old. Okay, because I swear to God, this guy sounds exactly like Paul Joseph Watson, doesn't he? Like, I'm just wondering, is this like an AI generated personality influencer using the voice of Paul Joseph Watson? I don't know. Am I tripping? Y'all, what do y'all think? Does this dude sound exactly like freaking Paul Joseph Watson from InfoWars or whatever? Wait a minute. How did he get into anti-vaccine? Okay, so wait a minute. So Wallace won the bet because he put his telescope higher and proved the Earth was a ball like that? No, dude. There's still no curvature, no matter how high you put your telescope. Like, look, man. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Like, and this is way higher than any of those dudes could have put their telescope. So even from this high up, that's like how many thousand feet? There's still no curvature. So how could his telescope being a few feet higher prove anything when there's still no curvature from, 100,000 feet up? How could there be curvature from 10 feet or whatever the case is? We didn't hear how high up that telescope was. How could there be curvature for him, but no curvature for this weather balloon, this high altitude weather balloon right here? And also, what's up with the hot spot of the sun right here coming up here in just a second? Because it kind of goes to show that the Earth's a plane and the heavenly luminary, the sun, is local. It's in your face right there. So whatever this guy is on about, he put his telescope a little higher so he gets the 500 pounds. Okay, so what does that prove? Okay, so the way that Robotham explained why he didn't account for atmospheric refraction in the Bedford level experiment was because it's a variable, right? It's a variable, and it's going to affect light differently based on a number of things. So like the temperature, the humidity, and so if you were to do this sort of observation 10 times throughout the year, like do it sometimes in the morning on a cool day, do it sometimes in the evening on a warm day, do it a bunch of different times in different conditions, and you will get different readings because of refraction. So it is a variable. But also, it's not like it's not going to, again, cause the ball Earth, in theory, to so deviously and consistently present itself to us as a planar surface, right? It's just not how refraction works, again. And again, to me, it's very suspect that he's sitting here claiming that Robotham didn't know diddly squat about refraction, when in fact it was mentioned very early on in the first edition of Zetetic Astronomy, if I'm not mistaken. You know, if I'm wrong about that, whatever. It still doesn't prove the Earth's a globe. I'm just wrong about this particular point about how deceptive this guy is being. That's all. Okay, so he's talking about a model to explain all things, right? So while I agree that there is no model to explain all things, that goes for the globe, that goes for the various flat Earth models that have been kicked around. I would say that the creation is definitely an awesome mystery, right? If nothing else, it's an awesome mystery. But the thing about flat Earth is there is no theory necessary. Like, we're talking about simple measurement of the Earth, right? And leaving the curvature aside for a second, the mass holes and the cosmonauts They claim, and your science teacher too, they claim that we're spinning faster than the speed of sound and orbiting around the sun at 66,000 miles an hour along a curve, with increasingly ludicrous orbital velocities as you get to the galactic frame of reference and the ultimate, ridiculous speeds that cannot be comprehended, right? And the thing is there is no evidence for that. Like, it isn't even argued by the globetards. The Earth is a fixed frame of reference. It is a non-inertial frame. Um, a spinning ball orbiting around multiple curved linear trajectories cannot behave as such, right? You can't have a spinning ball. You can't have like a lake stuck to the side of a spinning ball and that lake be perfectly still sometimes, right? That's not how physics works, okay? The fact of the matter is, if we lived on a spinning ball as they claim, there would be tons of evidence just for that motion, right? And there is no evidence for any of that motion. So it's not just the curvature that's lacking. It's not just the fact that all of these exclusive proofs for a ball Earth that were presented to us as toddlers that turn out to be not so exclusive to a ball Earth at all, and in fact, are explained much better on a flat and stationary Earth. It's such a shame, though, a point I was making earlier, it's such a shame that this is the drivel that YouTube pushes out to people simply searching for flat Earth proof, right? Because this is not what this is. This is misinformation about the truth. Well-established facts like gravity, see, that's where we go off the rails. Again, I mentioned it before, like, what goes up must come down is quite absurd. It's the last thing you'd expect on spinning ball Earth. And so they had to sort of invent gravity to apologize for the fact that, loose apples fall from trees, don't they? They don't float up from trees. But to call gravity an established fact, that's absurd. Gravity is a theory that's only necessary on spinning ball Earth, but you will never find any shred of evidence to suggest that matter is attracted to other matter by gravity. Sure, you can demonstrate magnetism and those sorts of attractive relationships, but not gravity. That only exists in the mind of globetards. And it only exists because something like gravity is necessary for us to be, walking around on the sides of a spinning ball 1,000 miles an hour right now. Well, I'm in South Carolina, so it's like 800 and something. Still supersonic, faster than the speed of sound along a curve, as they claim. And again, why are we showing CGI if you've got all these pictures? I gotta back this up a hair because the ad messed his point up. So let's start that point over. Yeah, and that's that's not true either. So here he is again lying about what people believe. Like, why? Like, if you're debunking something, why do you have to lie about what people believe? That's crazy. This is merely character assassination, and misinformation is all it is. But what really gripes me is the fact that YouTube really pushes this drivel out to the masses. Like, but of course they would. Like, why wouldn't they? But yeah, nobody believes 9.8 meters per second squared. Not even Dell and the guys over there beyond the imaginary curve think that it's accelerating upward. They just think it's going upward at 9.8 meters per second, full stop, right? But still, that was not what Robotham detailed. It was all about density and buoyancy, right? Relative density, right? So like, if you take oh, I am not sharing my screen, am I? Damn, you guys. Why didn't y'all tell me, bro? How long have I been doing that? Shit. So sorry. Let me go back to sharing. There we go. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, so I think y'all must have missed like that whole last segment. So I was just sitting there talking to myself. Y'all had no clue what I was even on about. So let me just back it up another hair. I'm so sorry. Here we go. Damn, I wish I knew where I exactly had left this off at. Oh well.
All things flat Earth. After all, this was a society founded on reasoned inquiry, so they were going to need some compelling, believable, and provable explanations as to where humanity's best thinkers had been going wrong all these years, right? Nah. Now, fair warning, some of the following might sound somewhat illogical and inconsistent. That's because it is, obviously, but still, brace yourself for bullshit. It turns out there is actually no unified flat Earth theory, more a collection of carefully conceived absurdities, each more ridiculous than the last. Let's take a look at them, shall we? As the great prophet Robotham himself taught us in his work, Earth Not a Globe, we all live on a flat disk with the North Pole at its center and a 45-meter high ice wall, aka Antarctica, around the edge. You know, to stop everything from falling off. Now, if the Earth is just a big pancake, certain changes have to be made to other well-established facts. Trivial things like gravity. The theory of gravitation
So now y'all see all that crap I was responding to a minute ago. Sorry about that.
Makes perfect sense if we're all on a large spherical mass, but it makes no sense at all if the Earth is flat. Luckily, flat Earth is
gravity makes no sense if the Earth is flat. Well, that's true, but again, gravity is a theory that's only necessary if you first assume that you're walking around on the side of a spinning ball, right? Then you got to have something like gravity, but yeah, it's relative density. It's density and buoyancy, as I was saying.
Have come through for us on this one as well with a different explanation. And by different, I of course mean the kind of nonsense you might see scrawled on the wall of an 18th century mental asylum in human feces. Instead of gravity, flat earthers hold that the planet is actually accelerating upwards at 9.8 meters per second squared, which neatly matches gravitational acceleration. What's below the Earth pushing us upwards and causing this acceleration? Dark energy seems to be the general consensus.
Yeah, so this is all red herring. He's debunking an effigy that nobody believes. Like, absolute nonsense. Like, it really gripes me that this is the utter lack of diligence, the utter lack of any sort of I don't know, introspection or revisiting of this topic in any sort of logical sense. This is just a hit piece. and he's what? So he's like debunking Robotham by totally skirting around every main point the dude made and misrepresenting the shit that the dude said in his book and lying, really just lying on several instances that I caught him on. Straight up lying about the dude. But now he's like fast forwarding till decades after the guy was dead, and the Flat Earth Society took over and like turned, flat Earth belief into something crazy, right? It was a psychological operation, I believe. And yeah, so now he's marrying this cockamamie part of the theory that nobody believes with Robotham. And again, disingenuous, man. Just bad all around, bad form all around. Shame on people that call this sort of presentation research, and shame on YouTube for pushing it out to the masses with their algorithm. It makes me sick, man. It really does.
Which is pretty convenient, since even real scientists don't know what that is. How exactly the Earth can continually accelerate upwards without either crashing into something or eventually exceeding the speed of light is, as yet, unknown. Then we have the Sun, Moon, and the other planet. Oddly,
what's so funny though is that the globe Earth theory is filled with all kinds of nonsense, just wild off the wall shit that if you really think about it, it doesn't make any sense, right? Like gravity. Yeah, we're walking around on the side of a ball because of gravity, but gravity is also the force that keeps the moon in orbit, and it's the moon's gravity that gives us our tides. So there's all of these like just so anecdotes about gravity, but in terms of experimental proof or like any sort of practical examples of how gravity is definitely a real thing, there is none, right? Globe Earth is filled with so many just cockamamie assumptions and cockamamie theories that really do not comport to reality in the slightest. Okay. On the other hand, the flat Earth reality is very sensible, very obvious, and once you're attuned to this truth, it's like, how did we ever miss this? And the reason is because there has been a huge effort, a huge psychological operation to convince everybody that that is the case, that we live stuck to the side of this spinning ball for whatever reason. I mean, there's lots of potential motives that you can talk about, and I've gone into great detail about those potential motives, but at the end of the day, it's not really up to us to explain why they did this lie or why they pulled this great deception off. All that we can really show you for sure is that, if you measure the Earth for curvature, the curvature doesn't exist. And if you try to measure the Earth somehow for this supersonic axial rotation and orbital motions that they claim is going on, there is no evidence for that either, okay? And it also becomes pretty obvious that they convinced us of this theoretical version of reality when we were just little kids under duress, not capable of defending ourselves logically from these anecdotes, right? So that's a shame. But then when you see grown adults or robots or whatever this dude is making good money on these social media platforms with this drivel, with these, if Robotham was still alive, it would be like slanderous character assassination. I don't know, man. It's just kind of depressing.
enough, flat earthers are happy to admit all of these are spheres, albeit ones that are far smaller and closer than traditional science would have us believe. For instance,
I mean, maybe the wandering stars are spheres. I have not seen enough evidence to suggest one way or another that they're even physical objects, but okay, sure, maybe they're spheres. If they're spheres in the sky, does that somehow transitively prove that we're also living on a sphere in the sky? Right? The logic is like, doesn't comport. There is no logic to the globe-tard, is what I'm trying to say.
Both the Sun and the Moon are just 51 kilometers in diameter and sit about 4,800 kilometers above us. And the Sun, apparently, it just sort of dances around like a giant spotlight, illuminating the flat Earth below. Perhaps the strangest thing about all of this this is that despite its quite obvious absurdity, the Flat Earth movement is actually gaining traction in the modern world, even as our understanding of the universe continues to grow.
The reason it's expanding is because it's the truth. And people, human beings, resonate with the truth, you know? And I think many of us, most of us, sort of have a feeling, right? Just a feeling that something is way off. Like we can't really put our finger on it. Something's way off with the world. And like, in my opinion, like when you come to terms with this revelation, it actually it puts things in a different perspective, right? It actually shit kind of makes sense to me now, you know, whereas it didn't before. So if for no other reason than that, you know, I think it's definitely for anybody that's out there that like hasn't looked into this and you're thinking about it, you're not sure what to think. Just be honest with yourself. Don't be afraid to research things. You know, it's not going to hurt you. And you know, worst case scenario, you know, you come out of the other end believing what you already believed before. No harm, no foul. On the other hand, if you come to find out that that what I'm saying here is true, and there has been this sort of grandiose deception, you know, foisted upon us when we were all just little kids and going on for generations, even back into the 1800s and maybe even hundreds of years before that. That's pretty insidious, you know, that's pretty major. That's a pretty major thing, you know, to like lie to all generations of toddlers the world over for generations, right? And you know, the fact that especially the Judeo-Christian Bible does prophecy a great deception that is going to be sort of unveiled during the end times. You know, I think that well, I just don't think that there's anything else that you can point to that you could say fooled the entire world, right? I mean, this is really kind of unique in that regard. And you know, if we're paying attention to the ancient prophets, they were right. You know, that's the only measure of a prophet, right? Is whether or not their prophecies come to pass. And you know, in my opinion, we've been living through the sort of times of you know, revelation and apocalypse for a long time. And those are not bad things, you know. Revelation and apocalypse are good things.
This may seem counterintuitive, but given the movement's origins, the rejection of scientific evidence in favor of a very literal interpretation of the Bible, it's perhaps not that surprising. The internet has made it.
Yeah, Robotham did go into biblical stuff in the final chapter of the book. It was more like I don't know, like an afterthought of the book. And you know, I think a lot of people it does bring back to religion. It brings people closer to God. I mean, it is a pretty, you know, it's a humbling thing when you to realize, you know, that you've been totally misinformed about, you know, the very ground that we walk upon for your whole life. It's you know, it's a big deal, man. It is a big deal.
Far easier to share information and, more importantly, misinformation, and the resurgence of evangelical churches in many countries has furthered the beliefs. In Brazil, where evangelical Christianity is rampant, there are estimated to be 11 million believers in flat earth theories. That's 7% of the population. Another factor is the enduring
probably way more than that, honestly, because from what I gather in South America, they don't have the very heavy like indoctrination that we do here in the States, and other places as well, I'm sure. And also, like, I don't think that they have that sort of like nostalgic connection to their space agency like so many Americans definitely do with NASA, right? So like the South Americans and Brazilians and stuff don't have like you know, the Apollo missions that are ingrained into their culture as we do, right? And it is hard. It's hard for people, especially Americans, to even consider this because I mean, space is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Are you crazy? You know, our tax dollars go to the tune of dozens of billions of dollars every year to fund NASA. Are you telling me that we're shoveling money into a bottomless pit? Yeah, that's basically what it is. That's definitely what it is. And it's worse than a bottomless pit because I think at the very tip top of NASA, you probably have some sort of a fucking demon sitting on top. Just, you know, maybe allegorically a demon, but you know the type, the archetype, right?
popularity of conspiracy theories. Roughly half of the US population believes in at least one conspiracy theory. From the government planning 9/11 to aeroplane vapor trails containing chemicals as part of some vague plan to control the weather or manipulate human psychology. It seems people find the allure of secret operations and worldwide cover-ups too hard to resist. Speaking of worldwide cover-ups, that might just be the most baffling part.
You know, that is true. I mean, there's nothing like a good mystery. There's nothing like a good, you know, whodunit. There's nothing more fun than sort of peeling back the onion-like layers of a mystery as you go, right? And in that respect, yeah, flat Earth is fascinating, and so are all the other conspiracy theories. But I would also just add that flat Earth is unique to all these other conspiracy theories because it's the one that you can yourself definitively prove to yourself. Not to have some expert tell you about, not to watch some documentary about, but to literally to prove to yourself beyond the shadow of a doubt. So like, you know, the 9/11 conspiracy theory, there's lots of good evidence to support that. I mean, I wouldn't even call it a theory, but you know, at the end of the day, there isn't enough actionable intelligence to conclusively say exactly what happened that day, right? I mean, we can say that the official narrative is bullshit. We can all get on board with that. But you know, they did pawn the crime scene to China pretty quickly after 9/11, and so there's never going to be an investigation. You're never going to know exactly what happened. And you know, the same thing goes with UFOs, right? I mean, I think most of us out there have seen UFOs and we know there's something in the sky, but where's your actionable intelligence? Like, go measure you a UFO, right? Go take you a picture of a UFO. So yeah, these conspiracy theories, while interesting and fascinating, flat Earth is unique because it is the only one that you can conclusively prove to yourself, and that is why it's growing. It's because it's true, and it is, while it is hard for people to even you know, sort of jump off that diving board of even considering this thing. Once you dip your toe in, it is a bit addictive because it's true, and it does sort of dovetail with all of these other conspiracy theories, you know.
Not a flat Earth philosophy. Because a prerequisite of believing the idea of a flat Earth is also believing that countless individuals, organizations, and governments in every country on the planet are working together to propagate the greatest lie in history.
So, and you know, again, the way that that's couched, it sounds absurd, right? But like the way that I think about it is, first of all, I'm starting from the position that I know that this is true, and so something has happened to convince everybody of this bullshit. But what exactly has happened? No, you don't have all of these groups and entities and governments lying. No, I mean, you've got NASA, but I would even say like at least 90% of employees at NASA are probably totally innocent of this deception. You know, I would say like probably all the astronauts are lying. And then, sure, I'm sure there's a few high ups at NASA. You know, you've got your Freemason types that are doing the secret handshakes and stuff behind closed doors. They're not going to tell anybody. But, you know, I don't think it's this big, grandiose conspiracy like everyone thinks. They already got us by the balls when they tricked everyone into believing in the ball Earth when we were little kids. That's it. They don't need to go on about, you know, getting these government organizations to trick people because frankly, like, even if you tell people, hey man, the Earth's flat, they don't believe you. And if you can somehow convince people that it is true, they're not going to go shouting it from the rooftops at their place of work, or, unless maybe if they're stupid or crazy. I mean, no offense to the people that do that, but like, and I know a chick that she went to her priest with this, and the priest had her Baker acted. He had her locked up in a mental institution. Her priest. Okay, so you know, it's probably not the best idea to go shouting it at the rooftops at your place of employment or whatever. Okay. But the arguments this guy makes are just so stupid. Like, where's the proof for the curvature? Like, I haven't seen anything that's going to remotely suggest that I live stuck to the side of a spinning ball for the duration of this video insofar. Just saying.
Chief amongst these enemies of truth, according to flat earthers, is NASA, which, for obvious reasons, is public enemy number one. Those damned evil astronauts are said to be working with the world's elite ruling class, with powerful governments, the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, and the Rockefellers. According to many flat earthers, the higher-ups at NASA aren't actually all that worried about the shape of the Earth. They're merely concerned with covering their own backs. You see, that we've never been into space and the moon landings were faked. Pictures of around Earth are simply created.
I mean, I wouldn't say anybody believes that. The moon landings were definitely faked, right? And the concept of infinite space, like the vacuum of infinite space, is contingent upon the Earth being a ball in that space. So again, without curvature, then infinite space goes right out the damn window. And so does NASA. Like NASA's necessarily definitely lying. And they should be disbanded, stricken. We should get our money back. You know, any technologies that NASA may have developed over the years should be profiting the American people, not some, you know, fat cat investors or private shareholders or like Chinese governments.
That way because NASA thinks it looks kind of cool. But since neither they nor anyone else has actually ever been into space, what do they know? Without space travel to occupy themselves, NASA staff are simply a bunch of scammers trying to keep their funding coming in. Their duties mainly include manning the giant ice wall encircling the entire planet to make sure no one gets too close and falls off the...
No, again, I don't think that's so. I mean, it's not necessary. There's not a lot of people trying to get to Antarctica. But, you know, they do have technology, right? Radar, sonar. There's listening devices all throughout the ocean. So, like, you don't have to have NASA manning the Antarctic. Basically, if anybody goes to break the Antarctic Treaty, which was, you know, signed by all industrialized nations in the 1950s, I think. If you go to violate the Antarctic Treaty, which is to say, if you like travel below 60 degrees south latitude with stored fuel or with you know, plans to go south beyond the Antarctic, yes, you will be stopped. I mean, there are examples of that, but like they're not. There's nobody out there manning the wall. That's crazy talk. I mean, it sounds absurd because it is. But again, this is what amounts to proving the Earth is a spinning ball in space. It's falls flat.
The edge of the world, and of course, their resident Photoshop whiz spends his days faking photographs from space to pretend they've been there. The thing is, believing the truth is being hushed up isn't just a prerequisite for being a flat earther. It's one of their...
See, that's the thing, though. It's not about believing the truth has been hushed up. It's about realizing the truth and coming to this astonishing realization that, yeah, we've all been deceived by this. I mean, how crazy is that really, though? I mean, that's pretty wild. And, you know, I do understand why it's such a difficult thing for normal, everyday people to get on board with, right? I mean, the implications are staggering. But again, I don't think that it necessarily means that all of these organizations are you know, part of the deception. Yeah, definitely NASA. But again, I would say probably 90+% of employees at NASA are just none the wiser.
Greatest weapons against people who say otherwise. Because whenever some piece of evidence or reasoning comes along that doesn't quite jive with the whole flat earth thingy, they can just cry conspiracy. Lee McIntyre, a philosopher at Boston University.
Well, so this dude is definitely not going to be proving any Earth curvature or axial rotation in this video. But NASA fanboying, he's going to do a lot of that. Honestly, I've had about enough of this one, guys. So definitely know. Let me know what you think. If you like these sort of live responses, I will definitely do some more of them. And mental note to self: go back and put a card for Zetetic Astronomy, and a card for the 1947 rocket launch hoax video. All right, so I'm going to wrap this one up, you guys. Let me check in on the chat, because before I wrap this up, I do want to make sure if anybody sent through a super chat, I don't want to miss you. I know whoever did that on the last stream, I didn't know there was a super chat until after I ended it. So let me just check on YouTube real quick, man. And I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving with your families. I hope everyone's being safe and good and snug and warm. Plenty of good foods and drinks for you, man. I wish you all the best for real. Okay. So if my sources are correct, then there are no super chats here, so I don't have to call anyone out. Am I right? Am I right? I think I'm right. Okay, that's cool. I mean, I just want to make sure I'm not like fishing for super chats here, you guys. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss any. So, whoever sent that last time, I tried to find like what you had said in the super chat, and I just can't find the damn thing. So I am sorry about that. Nixon, Owl, or Never. Good to see you too, my friend. Density is a cause of motion. I mean, density and buoyancy. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that. Yeah. I mean, the way I describe it, like the best way to encapsulate it is, if you've got 100 tons of steel in a cube, and you drop it in the ocean, it's going to sink to the bottom. But you take that the same 100 tons of steel and you mold it into the shape of a big ship, with the buoyancy principle in mind, it'll float on the surface of the water. And, similarly, a helium balloon is going to raise up way above the clouds. Okay. So it's all based on relative density and buoyancy. I think underlying that, I think that there is probably an electromagnetic cause to, gravity, right? Because the Earth is a capacitor plane. It's a dielectric plane in a dielectric relationship with the ionous plane, right? And because of the fact that the Earth is a free energy generating dielectric plane, there's certain things that come along with that, right? Anyway, I think that it can one day be proven that what goes up must come down is not caused by any sort of rising of the Earth or nothing like gravity, but it's a simple electromagnetic acceleration. The Earth's rotational magnetic field probably has something to do with it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But from what I've been told, I've never measured it myself, but I've been told that there is static electric potential proportional with altitude. So it's 100 volts per meter in altitude, you get electric potential. And that's a measurable rate, right? And it is kind of nice round numbers, isn't it? 100 volts per meter. It's almost too much of a coincidence, right? It's almost like the people that came up with the measurements for volts and things like meters already knew about that, right? And it is kind of weird that you get 100 volts per meter in static electric potential with altitude, right? And that's why they used to build the Antiquitech tall, right? Like the Eiffel Tower and things like that, Tesla towers. I don't know, man. Happy Thanksgiving, you guys. Y'all be good. Rob's keep a rip. Yeah, Fritz, man, I know. I did get to meet the guy one time years ago. Very nice man and a lovely wife as well. One love, you guys. Good to see y'all. I will be posting up some new material very soon. I've got a video in the works. I'm going to be talking about Machu Picchu. It's going to be in the thread of stolen history and mud flood and that sort of thing. So any of y'all that are fans of the stolen history, questioning the historical narrative sort of stuff, I've got one coming for you. So be on the lookout for that. Anybody who wants to support the channel, there are links below to PayPal, Patreon, Cash App, Venmo, all that. Thanks so much. Big shout out to our Patreon members. Y'all are dwindling, but I love y'all very much. And I will see y'all in the next one. Y'all be good. As always, spread the word, spread the world, and peace out, everybody.